So tonight at Line Out Tours, we're going to talk about three of my favorite places in England. I've been to England, Scotland, Wales more than 70 times. So I have a lot of my favorites, and they've also proved to be some favorites among our customers as well. So we're going to talk about those three. Of course, any of the places that we talk about can be combined with Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and you can do them in any order that you want. After all, we're experts in travel to England, Scotland, and Wales, and we've been in business since 1970. You can visit us at our website, lineouttours.com, and don't forget that that has 3 T's. Or you can call us at 800-221-2474. A little bit of geography first. I just want to explain to you about the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom includes England, that's that big green area you see on the right, Scotland, the orange area, Wales, the red area, and also Northern Ireland, the little bit on the island of Ireland. They're all considered part of the United Kingdom. Great Britain is just England, Scotland, and Wales. Tonight, we're just going to be talking about the big green area on the right-hand side. We're going to be talking about England. So what's so special about England? Well, there are a number of reasons to visit. Of course, the main language is English. It's probably the most comfortable country for an American to visit. But I like it particularly for the 3 areas that are within a day's drive of London. There are sleepy villages, thatched roofs, stone houses. We have some green hills and valleys, some gardens, sandy and dramatic coastlines. Remember, most of Great Britain is surrounded by water. It's very rich in history. Some of the history is associated with our own country. We can of castles and cathedrals, and there's so much to see and do. It's hard to really pick the places that you want to visit, especially when you have a limited amount of time to visit the area. If I were doing a tour just of England, I'd want about 10 days. So I know that some of you plan to do Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales in about 14 days, or some of you even less. So you're going to miss out on some of the areas that I think are must-sees in England. But not everybody has the same amount of vacation time or the desire to see everything. But I'm just going to give you what I think you should see in England. So my 3 favorite places include the Cotswolds area, Devon and Cornwall, and Kent and Sussex. And we're going to go over all of them. In addition to that, we're going to have a short trivia contest in the middle of the presentation. And it's based on history, it's based on geography, and some pop culture as well. So there are 10 questions we're going to ask you. So let's first talk about Devon and Cornwall. Devon and Cornwall is that area you see highlighted in red on the map, and it is west of London. It has granite cliffs and fishing villages. Many of the areas around Devon and Cornwall were fishing ports, including the area of Plymouth, which is where the Mayflower sailed from. It has the artist colony of St. Ives. So if you like that creative, artistic bent to a particular town, St. Ives is the one to visit. Dartmoor National Park, which is a spectacular park that has even wild horses in it. The legend of King Arthur emanates from this area, from Glastonbury. It's home to popular film locations. If you've watched any of the PBS shows like Doc Martin, Poldark, and others, they were all filmed in Devon and Cornwall. It also has the best coastal walking path in Britain. This is typical of the kind of scenery that you will see in Devon and Cornwall. Here we are in St. Ives, which is an old fishing village, and this is a group of ladies who decided they were going to tour together. Exmoor National Park, that's in addition to Dartmoor, which I just mentioned. Many national parks are down in this area, so beautiful outdoor scenery, great walking trails, and just enjoyment of the area. Cornwall itself plays a lead character in the popular PBS series Poldark. If you saw some of the scenery in that TV show, you'll know what I'm talking about in terms of the spectacular scenery in the area. Cornwall, which is one of the two counties we're talking about, boasts a 300-mile section of the Southwest Coast Path. So it's a popular hiking area in Cornwall. Meringues, a cream tea. Cream tea can be scones with clotted cream and strawberry preserves, or you can have meringues. A cream tea means you have tea, usually in the afternoon, with something that has cream on it, like this. Just to give you an idea of what you can do in a few days in Devon and Cornwall, I am going to take you on this 5-day, 4-night tour. It's a tour, a motor coach tour that we run from London, but it's just to give you an idea of distances and how far you can travel in a day. It's a great add-on if you're in London for a few days and you want to get out into the countryside. This tour departs and returns to central London with guaranteed year-round departures. You have a choice of staying in bed and breakfasts or hotels, both with daily breakfast. Prices start at $1,210 US per person. So you can see that on the map there that we go to Glastonbury, we go down to Plymouth, Falmouth, we visit Salisbury, which is where Stonehenge is, and Winchester. You've heard the song Winchester Cathedral from many years ago. We go back to London. I'm going to give you a little bit more in depth about these areas in just a moment. This would be the type of mini coach that we use on our smaller coach tours. Remember, our coach tours have no more than 16 or 18 people on board. We use Mercedes coaches with reclining seats, air conditioning. We have a driver guide rather than two persons. The driver is always a local. We'll give you lots of history of the area in addition to his or her own anecdotes about growing up in the area. So going on a small tour, I think, makes all the difference. You get to know the other passengers really well. The driver gets to know you really well. And even if you want to stop and take a picture along the way, it's actually quite easy for him or her to bring the coach in along the side of the road. If you go on a big motor coach, you know, that has 50 seats, like the size of a city bus, that's not so easy to maneuver. And you get 50 people annoyed when you keep asking the driver to pull over and take a picture. But on these smaller coaches, that's never an issue. We're going to visit Winchester. It's a famous cathedral at Winchester, and nearby is Stonehenge. We're all familiar with the standing stones of Stonehenge. Is probably the most famous standing stone edifice in all of the UK. There are many other standing stone areas, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but this is the most popular and the largest. We're also visiting Exeter. Exeter is a lovely town down in Devon and Cornwall, and it's also the site of a beautiful cathedral. Dartmoor National Park, it's home to the famous ponies. They're wild. You'll see them all over on the side of the road. But that adds a nice element, I think, to your trip. You have the opportunity of being out in the countryside to sample some of the local food, like farmhouse cheeses in the area. And here we are in Dartmoor at the medieval Clapper Bridge. So this is the type of bridge that they built in medieval times and standing today. Tintagel Castle, the birthplace of King Arthur, is in the area. As I mentioned before, the center for most of the tales of King Arthur is in an area called Glastonbury, and this is nearby. Port Isaac, another little lovely town where you can get your Doc Martin fix, the PBS show. And then you go on to Falmouth, which is out in Cornwall. St. Michael's Mount, You see the path that the people are walking on there out to St. Michael's Mount. That's only possible to cross there during low tide. So you just have to watch the tides, both going over and coming back. And they will tell you on the island what time you have to leave the island in order to make it back to land. Otherwise, you're staying overnight in St. Michael's Mount. Land's End is just like it says, it's the very westernmost tip of England. And we visit there and then we go on to St. Ives being the artist colony. The Elizabethan village of Boscastle is also a stop on this tour. Glastonbury Abbey, of course, associated with King Arthur, and it's also home to an annual music festival. So this just gives you a few ideas about what you can see in this area of England, Devon, and Cornwall. It's the first of my three favorite spots, and it's located in southwest England. It's not the kind of place to go for a day trip. From London, you really need a few days to explore the area. You have different ways with Line Out Tours to explore the area. One is to choose a small group escorted tour, which is limited to 16 to 18 persons. You could do a self-drive tour with your choice of itineraries, or we can plan an itinerary for you. We have a good idea of how long it takes to get from A to B, what days you should avoid certain areas or what days might be good market days in certain towns. And if you would like, we can do a private chauffeur-driven tour. Leave the driving to us. Don't worry about driving on the other side of the road or planning your itinerary. Give us a little information about yourself before we plan your tour, what you like to do, whether you like to get up early, you like to get up late, you're interested in pubs, you're interested in fine restaurants. Any of that kind of information is going to help us to plan your tour to meet your exact needs. Next, we're going to talk about Kent and Sussex. The dark green area on the map is Kent and Sussex, which is often referred to as the Garden of England. It's a stone's throw from London and the airports, and it's located in the southeast. So London is the topmost area of that dark green area. So this is part of this you can actually do in day trips from London, but I would say 3 to 5 days is probably a nice amount of time to explore this area. What do we have over here? It's called the Garden of England because some of the most famous gardens in England are located in this area. One of them is Sissinghurst Garden. You can go to Canterbury, which is the home of the Anglican Church. Hever Castle and Gardens, that was the childhood home of Anne Boleyn. You can visit the White Cliffs of Dover. Leeds Castle, one of Kent's finest castles, and it was home to the Astor family. You can visit pretty villages like Rochester. That's where Dickens wrote most of his books, and it still retains its shop fronts from Dickens' time. So it's a charming sort of town. The region is featured also in our Chelsea Flower Show tours. Chelsea Flower Show takes place in May each year. And I do think we have a couple of seats still left on our May tours, which is unusual. We have 6 departures, all small group tours on our Chelsea Flower Show tour, which takes place in May, and it starts and ends in London. Chelsea Flower Show is one of the largest flower shows in the world, a garden show. Part of it is indoor, part of it is outdoor. It has show gardens with latest designs in English gardens, beautiful flowers, lovely statuary, all the things associated with gardens. If you're a garden lover or you just love plants and flowers, it's a must-see when you go to England. Scotney Gardens, another beautiful area with a moated castle, a lake, beautiful grounds. You could easily spend 3 or 4 hours here at Scotney Gardens. Hever Castle, that, as I mentioned, is the childhood home of Anne Boleyn, one of Henry VIII's 6 wives. You can even stay at Hever Castle. I stayed here, and it was just a great experience. Leeds Castle. This is was referred to as one of the loveliest castles in the world. Two of its famous owners were King Henry VIII and the Astor family as well. Lovely place. That would take you a full day just to do all the grounds. They even have all sorts of bird life and animals there. They have trumpet swans. It's just a magical sort of place at Leeds Castle. Many villages, which are typical of, Elizabethan times, half-timbered buildings from Shakespeare's time. It's the kind of atmosphere that you expect in a quaint country village in Kent and Sussex in England. And there are many villages that look like this. The White Cliffs of Dover, that's the closest port to continental Europe. Now, actually, the cliffs of Dover are best seen from a boat, but there are areas on land near Dover where you can see the white chalk cliffs as well. That's also one of the areas, Dover Castle, which was one of the areas in World War II that served as sort of an outlook for ships and planes coming into England. So that's an interesting place to visit as well if you're interested in World War II history. Dickens Rochester, that's what I mentioned before, where they still have the bow-fronted shop windows along the main street. And twice a year, they have a parade where the locals get dressed up in Dickens costumes. And you can rent a costume too if you want to be in the parade. They have, I think one of them is in the summertime and the other is around Christmas time. I went to the Christmas one a few years ago, and it was really a great introduction to Christmas. Hastings, we're all familiar with the Bayeux Tapestry, the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Hastings is in Kent and Sussex as well. So there's a lot of history in this area, a lot of gardens, a lot of typically English quaint towns that you may want to visit. Now, we're going to take a little break and do some travel trivia. Travel trivia is just 10 questions. It's a mix of things. It's about geography, history, a lot of different things. So what I'm going to ask you to do is take a piece of paper, large piece of paper, put your name and your email address on the top, and number going down the page 1 to 10 so that you can write down your answers to 10 questions. It'd be best if you write down the answer, not just the number or letter that you see on the screen. 4 minutes after the end of travel trivia, you can send it, scan it, email, and write down this address. It's emcnulty@lynottours.com. That'll come directly to me, and make sure you note that Lynott Tours has 3 T's. Or you can just take a picture of it with your cell phone and send it to me at 516-248-3496. So we'll begin this in just a moment. I'll give you a little time to get a piece of paper and a pen and get your brains working. Now, there is a prize at the end of the contest. It is a Panera gift card, but it's more just a fun trivia contest. Now, don't Google things, please, and don't ask Siri. Just take a guess if you don't know the answer. It's all multiple choice. There are 4 possible answers to every question. So just write down what you think the answer is to each of the questions. And when you're done, you're going to send it to me, and then I'll tell you the answers, and I will tell you who the winner is. Number 1, what beverage do the Brits drink the most? Is it A, beer, B, cider, C, milk, or D, tea? What do you think is the main beverage that Brits drink the most? Remember, write down the name of the answer. If you think it's beer, write down beer. And then we'll go on to the next question. Number 2, what is the name of the sport played with a small hollow rubber ball that was invented at the Harrow School in England around 1830? Is it A, golf, B, tennis, C, squash, or D, handball? So what do you think the sport is that was invented at Harrow? Harrow being one of the public schools in England. As you know, they refer to their public schools the way we refer to our private schools. So when they're saying public, you think in the US private. And when they say everyone else, that's a public school. Number 3, besides Henry, what other first name has had 8 monarchs of England? A, Edward, B, William, C, Charles, or D, James? Besides Henry, what other first name did 8 monarchs of England have? A, Edward, B, William, C, Charles, or D, James? Number 4, ruling for 64 years, which queen was the longest reigning British monarch before Queen Elizabeth II? Was it A, Queen Victoria, B, Queen Mary, C, Queen Penelope, or D, Queen Maria? Who was the longest reigning British monarch before Queen Elizabeth II? Number 5, who was the Prime Minister of England during World War II? Was it A, Guy Fawkes, B, Winston Churchill, C, David Cameron, or D, William Gladstone? So who was the Prime Minister of England during World War II? Guy Fawkes, Winston Churchill, David Cameron, or William Gladstone? I think you're all going to get that one right. Number 6, how old is Sir Paul McCartney? Is he A, 78, B, 82, C, 75, or D, 85? How old is Paul McCartney? He's getting up there in years. What is the singer Adele's last name? You know, this was a mystery to me because she never uses it. Is it A, Laurie? Is it B, Lennon? Is it C, Pierce? Or is it D, Adkins? What is the singer Adele's last name? Laurie, Lennon, Pierce, or Adkins? Number 8, what town or city is not in England? Which is not in England? A, Carlisle, B, Penzance, C, Gretna Green, or D, York? Which one of these is not in England? Number 9, what area is known as the Garden of England? Is it A, Kent, B, the Cotswolds, C, Devon, or D, Cornwall? Number 9, what area is known as the Garden of England? And our last question. Number 10, where is Dover located? A, east of London, B, in Devon and Cornwall, C, south of London, D, in Wales? Where is Dover located? So that's our last question. And what we want to do now is you want to take your piece of paper with the numbers 1 to 10 with your email and name on the top. You want to send me that either by email or taking a picture with your cell phone or scanning it to me, and you have 4 minutes to do so. So I'm going to set my alarm for 4 minutes. And we will then be able to continue with our presentation, and we will find out who the winner is later on. So the time starts now. So anybody who has their answers in by the time the timer goes off can be entered into the contest. And remember, the winner gets a Panera gift card. Now we're going to be talking about the Garden of England, where we have a small group tour that's limited to 18 people. We have departures April to September, best time to see the flowers and the plants and the trees, with departures from London, and we stay in quaint boutique hotels. This is a different type of tour than the one I just told you about in Devon and Cornwall. The escorted tour to Devon and Cornwall includes the driver guide, your accommodations, coaching, breakfast every day, but it does not include admissions. This tour, the Garden of England, it includes English breakfast and 2 dinners, and it also includes your entrance fees. Prices start at $25.19 per person based on double accommodations. Now, all of these are on our website, which is lineuptours.com. Entrances that are included in Chartwell, which is the home of Winston Churchill, Hever Castle, that's Anne Boleyn's house, and Canterbury Cathedral, which is the home of the Anglican Church in England. And here's where you're going to go. So you see that number 1 is London, and the arrows going in the direction of Chartwell House. You then continue on to Canterbury, Maidstone, Faversham, Whitstable. You continue on to Dover. You see Tenterden, Sissinghurst, Hever, and you go back to London. So it's a nice extensive tour of the area. Chartwell House, beautiful property associated with Winston Churchill. Hever Castle and Gardens, beautiful. It looked just like this the last time I was there, with the red leaves on the outside. A beautiful topiary in the garden. It's lovely just to go around the gardens if you don't go into the house or if you don't stay in the house. But it's a nice petite castle. It's not one of those overly large fortifications that you might be familiar with. Canterbury Cathedral. Canterbury, of course, being the head of the Church of England. That's where you'll have that great atmosphere of a large English country town, but dominated by the cathedral. You can stay on the cathedral grounds too, if you like. Oast houses in Kent. Oast houses are where they store the grains for beer. There are a lot of breweries in the area, and there are these very interesting looking buildings with those towers that are called oast houses in Kent. Here's one of the breweries. In fact, this is the oldest brewer in England, Shepherd Neame. By the way, when you see a pub in England, or yeah, mostly in England, it's either called a tied pub, T-I-E-D, or a free house. A tied pub means it was established by a particular brand. Like you might think of Heineken, or you might think of Bass Ale or something like that. So when you see a pub that has a particular brand associated with it, that's called a tied pub. A free house means they can serve more than one brand of beer. Dover Castle, associated with World War II. If you go into the basement of Dover Castle, you'll see all the operations during World War II. Sissinghurst Castle, one of the most beautiful gardens in Kent and in England itself. And so this is Kent and Sussex. You can choose a small group escorted tour, limited to 16 to 18 persons, like the Garden of England tour that I just went over. We can plan a self-drive for you. You can drive yourself and choose your own stops, we'll be happy to plan an itinerary for you. A private chauffeur-driven tour, let our experts drive you around. Don't worry about getting from A to B or how much time to spend at something. If you need some advice from the driver on where you should go for dinner or anything like that, he's a local, so he's going to be able to give you that information. We love traveling from London and experiencing all that surrounds it. And Kent and Sussex is a great area to do after you're done with London. The Cotswolds, that's the last area that we're going to talk about. The Cotswolds, you can see that small green area on the map to the left. They have houses of honey-colored stone. You see some of those buildings there in the background. That's locally sourced stone, and many of the houses are that color. So it gives us a charming, quaint, typically English feel to the towns. You have some stately English homes, including Blenheim Palace, another place that's associated with Winston Churchill. Castle Combe, the prettiest village in England. That's also where Dr. Dolittle was filmed. The stone village of Laycock. Laycock is used in a lot of period pieces, films and TV shows that were set in England. It's been in Pride and Prejudice. It's been in Hogwarts. You will recognize some of the buildings when you go there, just from different things that you have seen. We also go to Downton Abbey filming locations, which are located in this area as well. Upper Slaughter Village in the Cotswolds, one of the most charming towns in the Cotswolds. Nice little river running through it, the geese on the side of the road, the horses in the river. That was a perfect picture, and that was actually taken by one of our drivers who was driving through the area with some of our guests. And it is typical of the area. You will see people on horseback riding on the rural roads, typical houses, you know, a lot of farm animals, a lot of different things like that. A very bucolic area, and it's not that far from London. Castle Combe, which, as I mentioned, was the setting for Dr. Dolittle. A few times a year, they have some festivals in the area, and they do have the Morris dancers. These are gentlemen with bells around their calves, sticks, dressed up like this in white, and they're English folk dancers. The Gardens of Bibury. This is just another one of the beautiful towns in the Cotswolds. The Jane Austen Festival takes place in Bath, which is just outside the Cotswolds. It takes place in September. It's another one of those things where you can get dressed up in costume of the period if you like, or you can just watch all the costume characters walk on by, but that takes place in September. Of course, Bath is associated with the Roman baths as well. It's a charming town. It's a great place to visit. Pubs are everywhere. And of course, you want to go into some of the more traditional ones where they have lots of different beers and ciders and ales on tap. Great food too. So if you just want a casual meal, you go into a pub. Almost all of them serve food. Typical of pubs in the area, unattended children will be given a double espresso and a free kitten to take home, meaning you can bring children into a pub, but they have to behave. Some of the areas associated with Downton Abbey, like Bampton, Downton Abbey filming locations in the Cotswolds, Burton on the Water. That's one of the areas where our walking tours start from. You might want to visit the Standing Stones at Avebury. Now, I talked before about Stonehenge, which is the more famous place. It charges admission. There are rules. You know, you have to take a bus from the center to the actual stones. Well, Avebury is right in the back of somebody's house, and it's in an open field. And as you can see, the stones are standing. They're shorter. It hasn't been rebuilt the way that Stonehenge has. But if you want to get a feel for what it was like way back in the day when they used these standing stones, go to Avebury. It's really not very far from Stonehenge. So a typical tour of this area would be called the Heart of England. Again, this is a motor coach tour. You can use this itinerary as a self-drive private tour or just to give you some inspiration. But if you want somebody else to do the driving and you want to travel with 16 to 18 people on a small coach, it includes breakfast and dinner, some dinners. Then take this Heart of England tour. It features the Cotswolds and the surrounding countryside. It operates from April through October, and it departs and returns from central London. Prices start at $2,029 per person based on double accommodations. Entrances include Shakespeare's birthplace, Laycock, and the Roman baths. So you can see here that we start in London. We go to Oxford, Stratford, Laycock, Bath, Longleat. Longleat was the first open air animal safari park in England. Avebury, where the standing stones are. We visit the Great Dining Hall in Oxford. You'll recognize that from the Hogwarts films. That's where the dining room scene was filmed. Laycock Abbey. That's the town that was featured in Pride and Prejudice and many other period films. This is the inside of the Abbey, was turned into the hallways of Hogwarts in the Harry Potter films. Anne Hathaway's house, that's the wife of Shakespeare. It's in Stratford-upon-Avon, and this is probably one of the most popular pictures of the English countryside that you can imagine. But Stratford is a wonderful town to visit, both for Anne Hathaway's house, Shakespeare's birthplace, the school. There are so many buildings that you'd want to visit here. And also you might want to stay in the town. It has a number of inns that you can stay in that date from Shakespeare's time. So you can have food wherever. This is one of our drivers. Typical English breakfast, including ham, black pudding, eggs, beans, toast, lots of butter, and of course, sausages. It's quite a breakfast. You can visit Bath. These are the Roman baths in the town of Bath. There's also a new building that has a bath like this at the very top of a building. It's called the Thermae Spa. That's a wonderful place to go as well. It has several different layers to it, or you can go to this traditional one, which is the Roman bath. Here we are at Thermae. Longleat House, it's an English stately home, has a safari park around it, has a bunch of eccentric aristocrats who actually own it. They're all a bit nuts. The Avebury Stone Circle. You can also do some shorter tours from London. You have many options if you just have a day or two to visit Kent, Sussex, or the Cotswolds. You can do a one-day tour to Oxford, Cotswolds, and Stratford-upon-Avon, a day tour to Bath, Laycock, and Stonehenge. Another day tour goes to Downton Abbey filming locations, the Cotswolds, and Blenheim Palace. Downton Abbey, of course, is really Highclere Castle. That's open part of the year, not all of the year. It is closed sometimes. So if you're planning your trip around visiting Downton Abbey, make sure you ask us whether or not Highclere is going to be open on the day that you're planning to go there. So this is my 3 favorite places in England. It's Devon and Cornwall, Kent and Sussex, the Cotswolds, and you have a choice of self-drive, private chauffeur-driven tours, small escorted tours, and day tours. Now, what we're going to do in terms of the trivia answers, I'm not going to have time to actually look at all of your entries while we're doing this presentation. So I'm going to take a look at them, and provided that you've put your email address on the top, I will be giving you all the answers and telling you who the winner is by email tonight. So booking with us is easy. We answer the phone when you call. There's no call waiting. We don't have a call director. Press 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for this, and then tell your whole story and then be transferred to somebody else. The person who answers the phone is the person who's going to help you. You can send us an email in advance if you have a big, long itinerary that you want us to look at before you talk to us. Do that. Let the experts plan it for you. You don't have to do this on your own. I know sometimes England may seem like a very easy place to do on your own, but we can give you some tips on putting it together and making it fit in not only with your budget, but with the type of vacation that you're planning. We understand how important your vacation is to you, and it is to us too, and you're very important to us too. After all, we wouldn't be in business for more than 50 years if we didn't care about our customers. So if you have questions now, you can type them into the chat box, or I'll be opening up the floor for you to ask some questions. But if you want to make note of our phone number, it's 800-221-2474, or you can email us at britain@lynottours.com. You can visit our website at lynottours.com. Remember, we have a quick turnaround, so we don't take days and weeks to answer you, and we listen to you. We try to match the vacation to what you want to do, not to what we want you to do. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. So I'm just going to take a look in the chat box. I'm going to stop screen sharing, and we can open the floor to anybody who has a question. So if you have a question, you can turn on your screen, just raise your hand, and either Gina or I can answer it. I don't see any questions in the chat box. Does anybody in the audience have a question? Okay, then if you have a question, you think of it later on, you can send an email to us, Britain@lynottours. And otherwise, thank you for attending tonight. And I hope to see you in England sometime soon.
Good night.
Good night.